Joining us now for more on this, Republican commentator Deanna Lorraine and CNN political commentator and Democrat strategist Dave Jacobson. Thanks for coming back, guys. I want to pick up on these comments that Bolton made on Monday. He does have a history with the ICC. Seems he's found an administration finally that shares those views that the ICC is essentially worthless and a danger to society. But Dave, this also fits in with the wider pattern for this administration when it comes to dismantling all these institutions or if not dismantling, certainly not valuing these institutions like the WTO, like NATO, that kind of stuff.
It's a scorched earth strategy, right? I mean, it's one of which it's the America First platform that Donald Trump sort of campaigned on, which is the isolationist idea behind the Trump phenomenon. Look, I think broadly, I agree in the sense that we should protect American citizens from courts abroad or whatever. But at the same time, there is some value, and I think international courts can have a meaningful impact, when it comes to issues like dictators, like Nazi Germany.
Yeah.
Pardon me. If you had the Nuremberg trials, right? It wasn't the ICC as we see it today, but it did have a meaningful impact, and it was a good thing to hold Nazis accountable for the Holocaust. So,
yeah. And that's the thing too, Deanna, because when you have the U.S. in this leadership role, the world follows. I mean, that's the bottom line here. And if you have a court, with a mission to hold dictators and war criminals and mass killers accountable for their actions, and that's not being supported by the U.S., it does send conflicting messages about what this country stands for.
Yeah, it could definitely send conflicting messages, but we also have to wonder, is this a good thing or is it not? Is it something that maybe we should have the world follow? I mean, war is not a pretty thing. It's an ugly thing, and there's going to be some crime involved sometimes. And our men in uniform are so bravely defending our country and put in sometimes very precarious situations. And so believe what their point is that we don't want to put them then in jeopardy, who have already risked their lives. Some have lost their lives. How do we hold them account in a way that also doesn't put them in jeopardy and punish them for serving the country?
I remember Senator McCain was asked specifically about torture. And he said the reasons why we have rules against torture is so that when my son is taken captive, off the battlefield, he won't be tortured. That's the hope. And that's what it's all about. It's about sticking to a set of principles and ideals that you hope, because you are, and setting the example that others will follow.
Yeah, I think the ICC is it's not perfect by any means.
A lot of these institutions aren't. Yeah.
But we need some vehicle at the international level to hold, dictators and authoritarian governments who abuse their people or prisoners of war accountable.
Yeah.
And this is something that perhaps should be improved, but it shouldn't be dissolved.
Okay. We're on the eve now, just hours until the Bob Woodward book Fear, the latest tell-all about this administration, hits the newsstands. It's been a bad week for the Trump administration, and it's only Monday. It could get a lot worse. But we had this new CNN poll out. Donald Trump's approval rate, 36%. That's down 6 points in a month. But a closer look is more troubling. In fact, the president is losing support among independents, just 31%. A new low in this CNN poll, down 16 points. From last month. Yeah, I got the math right. Dave, that would normally be a huge warning sign of impending doom. Can you read these numbers the same way, because this is an unusual presidency?
It is very much an unusual presidency because, frankly, I would argue that almost any other modern-day president, when you've got an economy doing what our economy is doing today, which I should also mention Barack Obama should get some credit for because he put us on this trajectory, you wouldn't have a president with such low historical numbers, right? 36% approval rating. Frankly, in the CNN poll, I think that's the lowest he's actually been captured since he's been in the White House. And what's staggering is that 32%, 31% with independents.
31 independents, sorry.
Right. So here's what's really fascinating to me, John. You've got 44 members of Congress that are Republicans that are either retiring or not running again, right? So you've got that in conjunction with this game-changing poll, and then you've got Democrats winning in races like Conor Lamb, where Donald Trump won by 20 points. What this tells me is that there is a political earthquake on the horizon, and it is going to be caused by a massive Democratic tsunami that is going to wipe across this country.
Let's not forget that also when Obama was in office, too, there were polls that were, they were approving. They were saying that they approved of President Obama, yet when they were asked if they liked the direction of the country and where it's going, and if they liked the economy, they disapproved of that. So what this tells me is that people believe what the media tells them, and people often don't necessarily vote for the person's actions, but who they like, who is popular, and who is, the most articulate illegitimate president. Now, you know, what we know is that Trump is, he definitely doesn't do things conventionally, and he definitely doesn't speak eloquently compared to Obama, right? He has definitely a brash way of speaking, and people love him or hate him for it. But we really need to look at his actions and what he's actually doing with the economy. And I think too many people buy into this fear-mongering and this kind of, you know, he is like this and you should think that way.
Maybe that fear-mongering was ramped up a notch with that op-ed in the New York Times by an unnamed senior administration official who basically said they're working against the president to save the country from his sort of moments of crazy.
That's more troubling, I think, than Trump himself.
Okay,
it's this sort of shadow government and behind the scenes.
Okay, here's Sarah Sanders talking about who that person is at Monday's briefing.
Is the White House actively trying to find out who this person is, or do you not really care and you're moving on to other things?
It's frankly, I think, sad and pathetic that a gutless, anonymous source could receive so much attention from the media. And I think that the American people would be much better served if we actually spent some time talking about some of the really important things that are facing our country and the things that this administration is doing to help fix them.
Dave, is there anything more important to the welfare of the country than, you know, establishing the competence and the mental stability of the commander-in-chief?
No. That should be priority number one.
You think?
Look, I mean, going back to this other point, this is precisely why independents are flocking away from the president. I mean, 3 weeks ago, John, we weren't having a conversation about the possibility of flipping the Senate. Right now, all of a sudden, states like Arizona and Nevada are in play. You know, obviously, Arizona, Donald Trump won, Hillary Clinton won in Nevada. But, you know, Democrats only need to pick up a couple seats and defend some incumbents to actually flip the Senate. This is all you know, impacted because of Donald Trump's chaotic White House. And I think that is the biggest issue here.
And right now they want this sort of an FBI investigation, or they're hinting at it, to try and find out who this senior administration official is. I mean, the argument is that you know, the law that may have been broken, there actually isn't a law that's been broken, but it could represent a threat to national security, because if this person is willing to write this stuff in the New York Times, what would they be willing to do with, you know, classified information? It's a bit like Minority Report. You know, it's one of those pre-crimes that you get arrested for, you know, that Rudy Giuliani sort of sweeps in and takes you away.
Right. I think that people should also be worried about who these anonymous sources are, and they're just at their whim. They decide when something is not right for America or not, and taking things off of President Trump's desk and deciding what they're going to do with things. I think that we should be a lot more troubled by that, and I think that's pretty disturbing, yet we don't hear any kind of outcry over that. And, you know, I mean,
in every administration, though.
Right. I think the people that are mostly, you know, that are his base or his supporters think when everything that Trump does is considered evil or ridiculous or stupid or racist, then nothing really is anymore. And it starts to fall on deaf ears. And I think that's where the left should be really careful with overplaying their hand.
Yeah, can I just say real quick, John? Okay, really quickly. I think Donald Trump thinks he's the puppet master, right? He can dictate to the DOJ to tell them to do whatever, investigate my White House. He's also telling them similarly to not investigate political supporters like Duncan Hunter in California, who, you know, violated campaign election laws, right? Or Chris Collins, both of which who endorsed him in that campaign. So it's kind of like a double-edged sword.
Kind of backs up that thing about being amoral.
Yeah, right.
We should have this op-ed piece. Okay, very quickly, the Woodward book is another big story the White House wishes would actually go away. But it won't go away. The book is released in a couple of hours. And just to make sure it's getting plenty of airtime, the president tweeted, "The Woodward book is a joke, just another assault against me in a barrage of assaults, using now disproven, unnamed and anonymous sources. Many have already come forward to say the quotes by them, like the book, are fiction. Dems can't stand losing. I'll write the real book." Oh, Deanna, the mind boggles. But really, I mean, is Donald Trump going to put his credibility up against, you know, Mr. 4,500 category lies from the Washington Post, you know, seven a day, up against Mr. Watergate Bob Woodward?
It's not good. He shouldn't be doing that, and you know, he shouldn't be doing that. I don't think, because it's going to be a downward spiral if he continues to go head-to-head with Woodward, who has so many supporters and so much credibility. And the fact that President Trump didn't even meet with him, and I guess he requested several times to meet with him, 6 times to meet with him. So I don't think that Trump should be giving him any more airtime by tweeting any more and bringing more attention to it, because most people are just going to want to eat at it like it's Thanksgiving dinner.
You know, that's a really good.
You know, he wants the attention, though. He wants the news cycle, right?
He does. You know, one of the things
he likes to control the narrative. I think he does. does too. He has this clever way about him. He's a mad genius.
You know, one of the things that I was struck by Woodward's interview this morning on the Today Show was that he said he taped a lot of his interviews and his conversations.
Yeah.
So I wonder if there's going to be this drip, drip, drip like Omarosa, potentially, right? Like,
But with
if you want me to
credibility.
prove, yeah, exactly. If you want me to prove all the claims I'm making in the book, here you go.
Yeah, it's a dangerous road the president's going down, especially if
it's a
there's...
carrot. I just feel like this ongoing carrot. You know, this come over here. It's such a distraction.
Yeah.
You know.
But, yeah. Well,
we'd
what came
love to
first?
just
The
focus
controversy
on
or
the
the
positives about the
distraction?
country for once.
Okay. Deanna and Dave, thank you.
Thank
you guys are great.
Thank you.